What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. This will be going over the Thursday night football primer for Week 6. We've got the Broncos at the Chiefs. I believe the Chiefs are currently favored by 10.5 points, so obviously not expecting it to be a super competitive game. Super a little unfortunate. I'm technically a Broncos fan. It's been a brutal season. I don't think it's any better anytime soon. So the Chiefs will probably dominate in this game, but I think there's still lots of key takeaways for fantasy, and I'll just sort of go position by position and tell you guys what I expect from each of these plays and sort of whether or not they should be in your fantasy football lineups. So, as always, if you guys have any specific start sit questions, especially pertaining to the Thursday night game, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm happy to get you guys my opinions. Another useful tip I put out every single week: make sure that if you have any players that you're playing in this game, make sure you put them in the running back or wide receiver spots. Make sure that you're not playing them in your flex because you want to leave yourself that extra flexibility in case you have a player get declared out later on in the week. You want to make sure you have that have that flex spot available for that maneuverability that you might need. With that, let's just get into the first position here. We'll start us off with the quarterbacks. For the quarterbacks, for Russell Wilson, I think he's probably like a low-end quarterback one this week. He's actually the quarterback 8 on the season, and he does offer a decent amount of rushing to the upside. He had 49 rushing yards just last week, and we know that this is going to be a Broncos team that'll be trailing against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are an elite offense going up against statistically the worst defense over like the last 50 years right now. The Broncos defense has just been absolutely atrocious. So this defense is going to give up a lot of points to the Kansas City Chiefs, and Russ should be playing catch up the entire game. There should be enough garbage time in there that Russ can actually produce a decent fantasy outing. Although the issue is this defense for the Chiefs is pretty good. I know that historically we've sort of used the Chiefs as just a really nice matchup for players because, they're going to have to score to win. But the problem is this Chiefs defense is good enough to actually keep them from doing that now. So it's not a super exciting opportunity here for Wilson, but you've got a quarterback on bye. I think you could just certainly do a lot worse than Russ. I think he's definitely going to be like a low-end QB1 this week and someone that you can play, but not someone that I'm super excited about. For Patrick Mahomes, he's obviously a must start. He's been a little bit underwhelming so far this season. He's the quarterback 7 on the season, so just one spot ahead of Russell Wilson, which is super funny to think about. And I think part of the reason he's been a little bit underwhelming is just because their defense is so much better than what it's been historically. This is a defense that I think we do need to start taking seriously. It is going to limit the upside for Patrick Mahomes throughout the rest of the season. I don't think that means Patrick Mahomes is by any means like a bad fantasy option, but I think that QB1 overall upside is sort of just gone for him. He's probably going to be like the quarterback 4 or 5 on the season. That's not a knock on Patrick Mahomes, the player, but the fact of the matter is they just don't need to score as many points to win football games right now. They can play a little bit slower. Isaiah Pacheco's given them a bit of a running game, and it's just been a little bit of a down season so far for Mahomes. On top of that, if Travis Kelce sits, I would be a little bit more concerned about Patrick Mahomes. We sort of knock him down a little bit. It's probably outside of my top 5 in the week, but you're still starting him regardless. This Broncos defense is absolutely awful. Like I said earlier, they're statistically the worst defense in the NFL over like the last 50 years in terms of how many points and yards per game they're giving up. Patrick Mahomes is going to have no problem scoring on this defense. It's the first time in his career that he's faced the worst defense in the NFL in any matchup of his entire career. So I'd expect some fireworks from Mahomes. This could be a really good week for him and someone that I do think needs to be in your lineups. For the running backs for the Kansas City Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco is going to be a low-end running back 1 for me this week. He's someone that I think you really do just need to get in your lineups. The Denver Broncos are just absolutely awful at defending the run. They're giving up 6.1 yards per carry. If you look at like the last 7 or all of the matchups they've had this season, the running backs outside of week 1 against the Josh Jacobs, all of them have absolutely smashed. You just had Breece Hall go off against them. Khalil Herbert had over 20 points 2 weeks ago. Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert, we know what they did against them in week 3. Or wait, that was week 4. Yeah, it was week 3. But point being here that this Broncos defense is absolutely awful against running backs. Isaiah Pacheco is getting a ton of work in this offense. He's definitely someone that needs to be in your lineups, pretty much regardless of who you have. Even if you have 2 top 12 options, Isaiah Pacheco should still be in your flex. You got to make sure you get him in your lineup this week. For the other Chiefs running backs, I don't think I'm going to start Jerick McKinnon or Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There's the possibility here that this game gets out of hand and maybe you want to play McKinnon or CEH in like a DFS lineup. There's certainly opportunity for them there, but they're not guys that should be started in redraft right now. For the Broncos, I'm going to sit all of these guys. It sounds like Javonte Williams is going to play it on Thursday, and that's just something that gives me really just no confidence in terms of how this backfield is going to shake out. The Chiefs running defense has actually been pretty good. They're facing the least rush attempts per game against them so far this season. That's because they've got a really good run defense with Chris Jones in the middle. I think that if anybody was really going to have a good game, it might end up being Samaje Perine, to be honest. This is going to be a Broncos team that's probably trailing quite a bit. They trust Perine the most of any of these backs in the backfield out of the as a pass catcher. So you could see Perine sort of PPR his way of relevance, but I'm sitting all of these guys. It's a 3 running backfield and an offense that just hasn't been good enough to support that. It's not something that I'm excited about, and you got to sit all these running backs and just see how things play out with all of them active. For the wide receivers, not something to be super excited about here. I'm going to bench all of the Chiefs wide receivers. If you do want to take a shot on one of them, Rashee Rice would be my favorite option here, but he actually leads the NFL in drop rate and second, and the only guy behind him right now, the guy right behind him is Kadarius Toney. So these Chiefs out receivers are certainly struggling so far. There's not really a bunch of excitement. I do think Rashee Rice is a really good player and somebody that could see more opportunities going forward, but the Chiefs really do seem to think that they have a bunch of different receivers that serve sort of unique purposes in their offense. None of them are full-time players, and that really just limits the upside for any of them. Justin Ross would be another guy that I do think should be on your radar going forward. He saw a lot more opportunities just last week. He saw, I think it was only 6 or 7 snaps, but he saw 4 targets, caught 2 passes in that game. He looked really good. Patrick Mahomes compared him to DeAndre Hopkins, which I think is a bit of a stretch, but Justin Ross has been a guy that's been really highly touted throughout his collegiate career and then early on as like a prospect and somebody that he's got talent and there's still an opening in this offense. So Justin Ross could be on your radar as like a really deep league stash if you want to take a look at him, but by no means does he need to be rostered and definitely you're not starting him. For the Broncos, I think Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy are both like low end flex options. They both played really awful in week 5. There's a lot of just sort of bashing on both these receivers for not really playing hard last week. They weren't able to get open. Mark Schlereth, former Broncos player, went on the air for their local radio station saying both of them should be cut for their effort in week 5. They just really didn't play hard. Jerry Jeudy seems to be upset with his position in the Broncos organization. He certainly seems like he wants out in the trade. I think both of them are likely to be traded at some point here in the next few weeks. So you shouldn't be dropping into these guys, but Courtland Sutton does give you the most touchdown upside of any Broncos wide receiver. You can play him, but you do really need that touchdown for him to pay off. Jerry Jeudy, he's been sort of the wide receiver 1 over the last 2 weeks, if you want to look at terms of targets. So you could play him as well, but neither one of them is great. The Chiefs defense is actually pretty good so far this season, and this is just not something that I'm super confident in. So you can play them as like low end flex options, but I'm not excited about it, and I would prefer to look elsewhere if you can. I do have one league where I am playing Courtland Sutton, but in that league, it's a 3 wide receiver league with 2 flexes, and he is my second flex, and I've been strongly considering putting a guy like Tyler Algier or Brian Robinson over him. So sort of gives you the general gist of where I'm thinking about playing those guys in. Marvin Mims, I do think he's super talented and he will eventually be someone that we can start in fantasy this season, but he just needs to see more snaps. You definitely shouldn't drop Marvin Mims. One or both of these Broncos wide receivers ahead of him will probably be traded in the next couple of weeks. And when that happens, the Broncos will have no choice but to play Mims, make him a full-time player, and that'll make him really good for fantasy because I don't think Russ is coming off the field for this team. And Russ has actually played pretty well and well enough to support some relevant pass catchers in this offense. At the tight end position, we've got some question marks here. Travis Kelce is currently questionable with that ankle injury he suffered last week. Fortunately, it's not as bad as it looked. Whenever you see a player go down with a lower leg injury on a non-contact injury, you instantly think Achilles. Fortunately, it's not. Travis Kelce was able to return in the game, and he should be good to go, if not this week, the following week. If he's active tomorrow, or I'm recording this Wednesday night, so tomorrow. If he's active, you definitely play him. He's Travis Kelce. He's the tight end 1 in points per game so far, tight end 2 overall. You got to get Travis Kelce into your lineup regardless. And if he sits, I'm not going to pivot to a different Chiefs tight end. I know this Broncos defense has been absolutely awful so far, but there's just too many mouths to feed in this offense. There's no true like handcuffed tight end in this situation, so it's not something that I'd be looking for. For Denver, none of these tight ends should be in your lineups either. I know Adam Troutman scored a touchdown last week, and Greg Dulcich is going to be coming off of IR soon. I don't know if Greg Dulcich is going to play tomorrow. I don't think he's going to, but I do think he can be rostered now. He's been a talented pass catcher for them before. He's going to come off of IR, and like I said, the Broncos are going to trade some of their pass catchers, so there should be an opportunity here for him to become a much more important part of this offense once he comes back. So Dulcich could certainly be rostered, and honestly, a guy that should be stashed, especially if you need a tight end. So that'll do it for the Thursday Night Football primer. Up next, Saturday morning, you guys will get the start sit video where I'll go through every single game this week and sort of go over which players I think should be in your lineups and which players I think you should leave on your benches. It's been super exciting first 5 weeks. Hopefully the Thursday Night Football game is maybe a little bit more competitive than what we're expecting it to be. Hopefully we at least see a lot of offense because, at least the Broncos with that bad defense, we should see a lot of points. So it should be pretty fun at least, even though not necessarily going to see a competitive game. So as always, if you have any specific start sit questions or any other comments, feel free to let me know in the comments. I love interacting with you guys. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel. I know a lot of you guys watch these videos and haven't subscribed yet. Just subscribe so you make sure you get access to all the videos, get notifications when they come out by clicking that little bell. Really help me get to that 1,000 subscriber goal. We're just over 870 right now, and I'd love to hit 1,000 by the end of the NFL season. That's about 10 per week the rest of the year. That's pretty easy, just over 1 per day. So I think we can get there. So if you can, just help me out, give me the subscription. On top of that, if you have already subscribed, you can also help me out by just liking the video. It helps with the algorithm, helps me know that I'm doing a good job. So yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch these videos, and hope things go well for you with Thursday Night Football, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks.